Branding is about perception. It's about how people perceive us. The pandemic took place in 2020 and it really affected churches in a couple different ways. There was a lot of churches that struggled. The pandemic and the shutdown exposed a lot of holes that took place that had been there, and then a lot of people left. There was this disconnection that took place because of the lockdown, and some churches just saw people never come back. Some churches they struggled to keep things afloat. Pastors had to get a job in order just to keep things moving and surviving. Um, there was a lot of churches that just weren't prepared. They weren't prepared for a digital age. Even though we had been in one or have been in one for quite some time, they weren't ready for it. They'd been doing things the way they'd always done things. So when they had to do something differently, they had to pivot to going online. They had no clue how to do it. And sadly, a lot of churches didn't survive. On the other hand, there were some churches that thrived. They absolutely blew up during the pandemic in a good way. They had more people engaging with them. They were online. They had a great engagement online. Then when they opened up the doors, a lot of people started coming. People that had never come to church before, or at least not to their church. And they saw a great increase in giving. They saw a great increase in attendance and people excited to start volunteering in the church. There was two completely different experiences that took place coming out of the lockdown because of the pandemic. And from my perspective, what I saw was that the churches that did really well had a great brand. That's what I'm going to call it. They had a great brand. A brand is a combination of culture and style. It's how we bridge the gap between ourselves and the people that we're reaching, that we're pursuing. It's not just about a logo. It's about sharing who we are so we cut through that noise and reach people where they are. We all have some favorite brands that we connect with. Maybe Patagonia is a brand that you like because you're an outdoors person. They make high quality products that are outdoor type products. Maybe you like Starbucks because you can get your favorite drink at any location all across the country, all across the world. Maybe you like Walmart because Walmart is so convenient and you can get everything all in one place. It's a low price, makes your life easier. There's different brands that are excellent in different ways and they serve us in different ways. So that's why we go to them when we have a specific type of need in our life. As a church, we can position ourselves in the same way to meet the needs of the people we're serving. When we do this well, we get to see a great deal of people coming to our church and deciding that they want to be a part of it. The thing about branding is that we can't tell people what our brand is. What it is actually what people say about us becomes our brand. When we have a brand that's intentional, then people are able to say the right things about us that's in line with the vision that God has given us. It's not something that we say, it's something that people say about us. So what we need to do is invite people into a story, invite them into a compelling story that helps them understand who we are and how we can help them get better in their life. Great brands are really good at this. They're really good at presenting themselves as a solution to a problem that people have. Then people perceive them in that way. Branding is really four things. It's first of all, we have to get clear about who we are and clear about the people that we serve. We're not going to be good at reaching everyone, although everyone is welcome at our church. I'm sure you would agree with that. We're not going to be great at reaching everyone. So let's be clear about who we are and who we're really good at reaching. From there, let's create the right experience. Let's create the right logo, website, the right lobby experience. All these things comes out of the clarity that we have about who we are. And then finally, we need to attract people. We need to get people to show up, new people to come be a part of the brand. Branding is about how do we get people on the outside to become inside. So we want to make sure we attract people, and our job's not over when that happens. Our job needs to continue towards getting people to buy in. That means they say, I want to be a part of this. So if we think about a product, you don't just find the widget that you want. you find it on Amazon and you click the buy now button. And then that way you actually get it. So we need to be able to get people to the point where they say, yes, I like this church. This is great. I want to be a part of this church. So the process needs to continue all the way through that place where people say, yes, I want to buy into this. The world looks differently than it did even just a couple decades ago. I used to book a hotel, but now I have the option to book an Airbnb to stay in a different city. I used to go to the store and have to pick out my stuff and buy it from the store, but now I can go online and find a new lens and have it shipped over to me. And sometimes I find a box on my door and I don't even know what it is. I forgot what I ordered. It's like Christmas. I used to have a friend arrange a couple days ahead of time to take me to the airport. Now I can get an Uber anytime I need it. I used to, back in the 90s, make a mixtape where you record and try to get their song just right on there and then get the next song lined up. I used to make a mixtape. Now I have Spotify and I can just drag my favorite songs into a playlist and I can even share that. It's amazing. It's the same thing, we're just doing it differently. And the big reason is because technology has changed how we do things. It's changed the culture. As a church, we need to understand that we need to change, not the message, but the method that we use is probably going to be different than what it used to be. It used to be that you would have an event and people would come to the event. You just had something and people would show up. Maybe they had nothing else going on. But in today's culture, there's so much competing for people's attention. There's just a lot of noise out there. And so we need to tell people the benefits, like why is it that you should come to our church? Why do you need a church in your life? Because they don't understand that. So we used to send out a postcard mailer and just see people come. We used to maybe throw money into an ad on Facebook, and it used to get a big reach, but now it doesn't. Everything's changing all the time, and you might know this and sense it, but don't know exactly what to do about it. Maybe you got to volunteer to build a website for the church because you need a website. Maybe you got a high schooler in your church to use Photoshop and design some sort of a logo because you need a logo. So you've done these things, but you just aren't seeing the results of it. Well, when you get this right, when you get this branding right, and you begin to work towards building a brand, you're able to be more effective as you're able to cut through the noise and reach people where they are. It's never been easier to reach more people than it is today. At the same time, it's never been harder to get people to actually show up than it is today. If you've been like most churches and you've tried a whole bunch of different tactics to get more people to come to your church, to get more people to be part of the church, then I want to help you. We've all been there. We've seen an idea that a church down the street, they try it, or a church across the country has tried it. And then we try the same thing and we see completely different results. They see a whole bunch of people coming. We don't see very much happening at all for us. If you've thrown money into an ad, a mailer, a website, and you haven't seen any sort of results coming from it, then I want to help you with this branding. I want to teach you, I want to guide you so that you get this right. Because branding is a tool that helps us to say yes to the right things and ultimately see the results that we want. This is my family. In fact, this is the last picture that we took in Kansas City before we moved across the country to be part of a new church plant. We created this brand. I do branding for different organizations. So I thought one day, hey, what if I created a brand for my family? So I put together on a document a bunch of things like values, a mission, a vision, a purpose. And my wife and I came together, we put together this branding document. And from that, we defined who we are and our identity as a family. What are we called to do? And then an opportunity arose where Pastor Brandon shared with me this vision to help people live a better story in South Florida. And we wanted to be part of that. So we decided through some prayer and just some long conversations that we should move our family from Kansas City to South Florida. And this picture is the last picture that we took in Kansas City before making that move. And it has been a tremendous journey, but it was because we had clarity about who we are as a family that we had the confidence to go through this life-changing change to really step into the calling that God has for us as a family. So our branding document, it's about an identity that we feel God has called us to live into. In fact, this is just a glimpse of what it looks like. I know it's crazy, but that branding document helps us to get such clarity. We're able to build a great family, or at least work towards that as our kids are younger. And what we understand is that great families don't happen by accident. We have to be intentional about that. So that translates over to what I do with churches. I started church brand guides so that I can serve churches and help them implement the tool that is branding. Ultimately, the goal is to help more churches to see people showing up as first-time guests. And then from there, as people come and understand quickly what the church is all about, they decide to come back. And that's what I call becoming a sticky church. And it's just amazing to see these churches that do this and get this right. It's so rewarding for me because they get to help people get to know God, like really get to know Him as a father and as a friend. It's not just about religion. We get to help people to discover their purpose in life, to then ultimately make a difference with their life. And not just that, but the church itself gets to make a difference in the community. I've been able to help pastors that are praying for revival in their city to take those steps to create a church where it has a culture that's healthy. It's not a culture of like you should donate, but a culture of giving. This idea that we are givers, a culture that's not about volunteering, but a church that has a culture about being a servant leader and developing servant leaders. A church where people choose to join it and be a part of the vision that God has given it. And really, that's what branding does. It helps people to understand to a level that's emotional. It's not just an abstract idea, but it's very real. I've been able to see churches grow both in person and online as they've implemented these branding tactics that we talk about and that I help to consult with them to implement. Especially now that COVID has hit and churches have begun to do things differently because they had to. We're able to see more people starting to come back to the church in person as things are being put back to normal. But also the online impact that churches have had has kept the momentum. Like it's not something that we've seen in decline. More and more people are trying to engage online. And both things are happening. We're able to see more predictable results take place as people are joining the church on a regular basis. They're serving at the church. They're choosing to be part of the vision, and also they're donating financially. We've seen an increase in donations with a lot of the churches that we work with, as they've even during COVID and everything that happened there, I've seen people engaging and giving towards the vision of the church. We've seen more churches become a beacon of hope in their city, to be a place where people come to when they feel hopeless, or they feel like they're all alone, or they feel like they don't have any purpose with their life. We've been able to see more churches become that beacon and provide hope to people in their city. As a result of the growth, the churches that we've worked with have also been able to help their city in greater ways. They have more resources, more volunteers to make an impact, more finances to then be able to give back. And ultimately for me, like this is just extremely rewarding as I get to work with churches and see these results take place.
My name is Lucas Forstoff, and I'm on staff at Cornerstone Church in Michigan. I'm the young adults pastor and the creative director here at the church. And our church found ourselves in a place where we needed some new branding, like logos, fonts, colors, different ways to be able to display our stuff. And then we needed a brand new website at our church. And thankfully, we ran into Michael at an event in Michigan. And so we ended up calling him up, and his team responded so well. He ended up building a brand new website for us, gave us a brand new logo, rebranded our church entirely, and his work that he created for us was tremendous. Our website is so user-friendly, it looks great to the eye, People love it. People use it all the time. We've seen an increase in attendance, an increase in visitors, an increase in our engagement, an increase in our small groups. It truly was a tremendous blessing for our church.
I want to help churches to be intentional about their brand. Branding is just a tool. It's just a way for us to think about the church from a different perspective. It helps us to create an attractive experience that is sticky. So people stick, they stay around, they don't just leave. The result is over and over again, I've been able to see churches that I've worked with get new people to come, and then from there get them to say, hey, I want to be part of this vision. I want to join the church. I want to be part of this. As I look through my branding goggles, as I read the Bible, I see branding in the Bible a lot. God uses symbolism, and he uses objects, and he uses different things to teach us more about who he is. There's a couple things that really stood out to me. In 1 Samuel, it tells the story of Israel's first king, King Saul, and then King David would be next. Well, in the selection of David, the prophet Samuel, he basically went past David's older brothers to find David, the youngest and the smallest. And he said this: people look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. And here's what I know about you. As a minister of the gospel, you care deeply about the heart condition of people. That's why you do what you do. But we also have to realize that the first part of this statement is true. Man looks at the outward appearance. People judge a book by its cover. And we have to recognize that that is true. Churches that recognize that and that understand it and that work with that are the churches that are really taking ground for God's kingdom. They understand that the way they look, the way they're presented, controls the perception of what people have of them. And it determines if they're going to come to the church or not come to the church. It determines if they're going to be part of the church long term or not be part of the church and go somewhere else. So we have to be intentional. We have to understand that people truly are judging us before they even come and participate in one of our services. Another scripture that stands out to me is in the book of Matthew, and it talks about Jesus choosing his first disciples, and they were fishermen. So he said this phrase. He said, "Follow me, and I will teach you to be fishers of people." And that basically, for me, again, from a branding perspective, it makes so much sense. When we are doing branding and marketing and those type of things, it's like fishing. I moved down here to South Florida not too long ago, and one of the things I did is I went deep sea fishing, but I didn't go by myself. I hired a guide, and they told me when to show up. And when I did show up, they gave me a rod and a reel, and they put bait on my hook. They drove out about a mile or so out into the ocean, and they told me to drop the line. And when they told me to do those things and I did it, I caught the fish. I needed a guide to tell me where the fish were, when they were there, and what kind of bait to use to catch it. Fish didn't just come and jump in the boat. Just because we have a church doesn't mean that people will come. We have to be able to reach them where they are. And as a church, when we use branding, when we look at our church through what is a brand that we're trying to develop that attracts people, it's like we're fishing. We're finding out where people are, what they like, what they need in their life, and then we're offering them what we have. We're not changing the gospel. We're not changing any of that. We're just presenting it in a way where they can connect with it. Branding, it's really about the combination of our culture and style. It bridges the gap between who we are and those we pursue.
Hey, my name's Brandon, and in the fall of 2018, I moved to a city where I didn't know a single person to launch a new church. And during that journey, Michael Prasad with the Church Brand Guide worked with me to not just build and quantify a brand and build a great website, but to really hone in on what is the vision that God gave my wife and I to start our new church. And we crafted the vision, and from vision we built our brand, and from the brand we developed our website, and what we saw was just amazing. We launched in the fall of 2019, and on our launch day we had 387 people show up on launch day, and 39 people met Jesus on that day. It was amazing. And what we saw was incredible over the next 6 months, and like all of us, Then COVID hit. Now we're only a church that's a few months old. We lose our venue, we have to change cities, and we immediately had this great value for online church, and our website meant so much more to us than it ever had before, like all of you. And what we didn't realize going into COVID is we were ready for it. We were ready for, in the digital space, to make a quick pivot and make it so we could create a great online experience. And we reopened this last October, and get this is crazy to me. About half of our first-time guests do not know a single person who's ever come to our church. Half of them went through Google and found us in churches near me, went to our website, and they chose us because of our website and our brand. And Michael and the Church Brand Guide really helped us get there. So if you're thinking about reinventing your look online and you want to reach new people in your city who have never heard about you, so you aren't the best kept secret in town, you need to talk with Michael and the Church Brand Guide, because he will systematically walk you through defining the vision that God gave you, building a brand and a brand identity around that, building an amazing website for people to check you out before they ever come, because that's become the new front door. And then even to walk you through, how do you take a first-time guest and make them a disciple and someone fully integrated into the life of your local church. So I highly encourage you reaching out to Michael and going through his process, and it's worth every penny.
I would love to be your guide to help you create a brand that is genuinely communicating who you are to your city, so they understand the need that they have for what you offer. They need the hope that you bring. They need the community and the fellowship that you can offer them. They need to discover their purpose. They need to make a difference with their life, and your church can help them do all those things. We just have to let them know. It first starts with a strategy. Let's get a winning strategy in place. Let me be your guide, help you and your team to get the right strategy in place for your church. You already do a lot of the right things. We just need to put those in a way that people can understand it. We also need to get a logo for your church, the right logo, something that really unpacks your story in a visual way that's very simple, that's well designed as a vector design, and where we could put it on everything, and it just catches people's attention and creates that impression in their minds, so they understand that you're there, you're present in their city, and they need to come check you out. You need the right website. The website really serves as the front door. It's where people go to when they have any sort of thoughts about coming to the church. They go to the website first. So we just need to make sure the website is inviting. It serves as an employee for your church 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with the right job, so that people are showing up at your services, whether that's in person or even online. And then we need to make sure we have great signage on your property. When people see you online and they show up in person, there needs to be a cohesiveness to that experience. That's what builds trust. It's what helps people to say, I like it here. And it's what ultimately helps them to say, I want to come back. We need to have signs that help them navigate and get around, because we want to be welcoming. We want to go over the top with this, do some little extras that help people understand that we really want you here. And then we also need to communicate our values and who we are as a church, so people, as they're walking through our environments, can see that. They don't have to talk to anybody. They don't even have to hear a sermon. They're going to determine whether or not they're going to come back to your church within the first 5 minutes. So we need some great signage that'll make sure that they say, yes, I'm going to come back. So these are the pillars, the 4 pillars that are going to get your brand established and moving in the right direction, so that when you do marketing, it's effective. A lot of churches, they throw a lot of money into an ad or a mailer or a website or whatever that might be, but they don't have something great to invite people to. In fact, they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot, because when people actually show up, it's not really that great. So what we want to make sure we do is create a brand that is genuine and consistent and builds that trust, so that people see you online, they show up in person, and they decide, like, this is it. I've been looking for this all my life. I would love to be your guide on this journey to get your branding right for your church. All you need to do is book a time with me. We'll get on a call. We'll get to know each other, and from there, see if we're a good fit. Once we do that, we'll figure out a good package that works for you. It starts by booking a time, so click the button on the page and let's get started.